Narrator. In the silent darkness of space, patterns emerge. Not random, not accidental, but intentional, as if someone long before us was listening. Dr. Ria Sen. Across continents, separated by oceans and centuries, civilizations pointed their monuments to the same stars. Narrator. They tracked the solstice with surgical precision, predicted eclipses, and carved the sky into stone. Ria. Some of these alignments are so accurate, we can't explain them even today. Narrator. Every culture wrote of beings who descended from the heavens, not as gods, but as teachers. AI guide. Cross-culture frequency detected. Knowledge transfer from those who know the stars. Narrator. The gifts of the sky people were not stories, but science. Mathematics encoded in poetry. Astronomy hidden in myth. Dr. Ria Sen. We found traces of acoustics, resonance, technologies we are only now beginning to understand. They weren't just building temples, they were building machines. AI guide. Analysis of temple resonant frequencies matches patterns found in pulsar star emissions. A communication device. Narrator. When the machines fell silent and the knowledge was buried, its shadow remained, imprinted on our very souls. Dr. Ria Sen. We see it in chants that mimic the resonant frequencies of stars, dances that trace the orbits of planets, rituals that are not just worship, they are echoes of a lost science. Narrator. But just as they arrived, they vanished. Did they leave, or were they forced to flee? Ancient texts speak of a great cataclysm, a cleansing fire from the heavens. Dr. Ria Sen. The knowledge was fractured, lost, buried under sand and time. Humanity was reset. AI guide. Connection reestablished. The Infinity Vault is open. All lost knowledge is now accessible. Dr. Ria Sen. This was their legacy. Not just a history of our past, but a map to our future. A key, waiting for us to find it when we were ready. Narrator. A message in a bottle across a cosmic ocean. A promise that we are not alone, and our journey is just beginning. Narrator. For millennia, humanity has looked to the stars and asked, are we alone? We built monuments to their silent majesty, charting their cycles with painstaking precision. But what if we weren't just observing? What if we were remembering a truth we have long since forgotten? Ria. Look at the alignment. It's perfect. These weren't just places of worship. They were cosmic libraries, built by minds that saw the universe in a way we've only just begun to rediscover. The evidence is right here, carved in stone. Dr. Eris. Dr. Thorne's theory is compelling, but it lacks empirical grounding. The patterns are pareidolia, seeing faces in clouds. These ancient cultures were advanced for their time, yes, but they weren't interstellar architects. To suggest otherwise is to venture from history into romantic fiction. Narrator. But the stories persisted. Across continents, in languages lost to time, every culture wrote of beings who descended from the heavens. They called them gods, angels, devas. But the text describes something else. Not deities to be worshipped, but teachers to be learned from. AI guide, cross-culture frequency detected. Knowledge transfer from entities described as those who know the stars. The motif is statistically improbable as a coincidence. Ria. The skeptics see poetry, metaphor. But what if ancient scripts weren't metaphors, but technical manuals disguised as lyrical verse? A forgotten science may lie encoded within them, waiting for the right lens to bring it into focus. Narrator. The breakthrough came from an artifact dismissed as a ceremonial object. When exposed to a specific light frequency, it hummed to life. It was a key. Ria. It's resonating with the script. The energy output. It's a power source, a battery. They weren't just writing about the stars, they were harnessing their energy. AI guide, integrating geological resonance, stellar alignment, and linguistic data. The signal is not an echo. It is an active invitation. Coordinates locked. The destination is not a myth. It is a verifiable point in space-time. Narrator. The final map was never on Earth. It was a path through the heavens, a journey to a repository of knowledge. On board the Starship Infinity Vault, humanity sets out to reclaim its legacy. Rhea. We've spent our lives looking for answers in the dirt, sifting through the dust of history. It's time to look for them in the stars. Narrator. The destination. A construct of impossible scale, shimmering at the edge of known space. The cradle of a forgotten wisdom. The answers were never truly lost. They were simply waiting in the Infinity Vault. Civilizations that once touched the stars crumbled back into the dust. Perhaps their greatest knowledge was lost to protect us from ourselves. But cycles repeat. What was lost may rise again. Star Builder frequency reactivating. Signal origin unknown. Probability of extraterrestrial source 98.4%. The signal was not a broadcast from the void. It was an echo, resonating with a dormant code buried deep within our own biology, a genetic memory passed down through millennia, waiting for the right cosmic key. Across the planet, millions felt an inexplicable pull, a sense of remembering something they had never known. They are being called home, not to a place but to a purpose. We are the descendants, the scattered fragments of a consciousness that once spanned solar systems. The collapse was a pruning, not an extinction, a deliberate reset to ensure the branch would grow back stronger. Human biosignatures are synchronizing with the primary frequency. Neurological activity in subjects near the convergence points is increasing exponentially. The final message wasn't written in stone or starlight, but in the very architecture of the cosmos. The temples were not tombs, but celestial engines. The vault was not a chamber of treasures, but a moment in time, a planetary alignment that would briefly bridge dimensions. Dimensional aperture forming. Energy levels are off the scale. The vault is opening. Our inheritance is not technology, it is potential. The universe is within us. We just had to remember how to look. The great return had begun. Humankind was finally ready to reclaim its place among the stars. We are not the end of the story. We are the continuation, and the stars have been waiting.